shot in 4K ultra high definition. Your number one source for local news. WRAL News. Coverage you can count on.
And we're tracking an incoming heat wave this week, and to show you how many days hit 100 degrees and how long it's been since we've had a stretch like that, even here coming up.
Jail takeover investigation. The work happening to learn how nearly 90 inmates took over the Bertie Martin County Jail. Plus, working in the heat, the steps construction teams are taking to make sure they stay cool and hydrated on the job this week. And that is the week to definitely do that. It is going to be a hot one out, folks. Thanks for joining us dark and early here on WRAL News. I am Chris Lovingood, and you're waking up super early. Well, a bonus for you, we get a little crisscross action because meteorologist Chris Michaels is taking a look at your weather forecast. It is a humid one to start, Chris.
Yeah, definitely humid out there this morning. That'll start to change a little bit as we head into the afternoon, but a clear sky overhead. That's why we've got the WRAL studio tower lit in blue. Right now, 72 the current temperature, but as Chris was saying, when the dew point is 70, you certainly feel it out there. Right now, Roxborough, South Hill, 68 degrees. Southern Pines, Clinton at 72. Good morning. Rocky Mount, you're at 69 degrees so far. And as we go throughout the day today, it is going to get hotter. It is late June in North Carolina. We tend to expect that kind of heat, right? Midday temperatures are in the mid 80s, and then highs today make it toward about 92 in the Triangle, and humidity levels actually drop. So this is a manageable heat. But as we go throughout the week, the heat becomes a little less manageable. In fact, a heat wave still likely for us, and a lot of that starts Thursday and takes us through the holiday weekend. So your first look at Independence Day could be looking at temperatures at or above 100 degrees. And there's a few days where we see that potential. We'll show you how many and how long it's been since we've seen a stretch like that coming up. Chris?
Too many, Chris, too many. All right, we're getting to some stories that we've been following overnight. Raleigh police say that a man fired shots into the air outside an apartment complex overnight. Our team was at that scene on St. Giles Street in Northwest Raleigh. We saw more than a dozen evidence markers on the ground. You can see it here in this video. Police say this happened after an argument and no one was injured. They also say they have identified the suspect, but that person is not yet in custody. Investigators in Raleigh are also looking for a driver who hit a person on a bicycle and then just drove off. The crash happened on Western Boulevard near Gorman Street around 9:30 last night. And video from the WRAL Breaking News Tracker shows the damage to the bicycle right here. The rider is expected to live, and Raleigh police have not released any information about a possible suspect or even a vehicle description. The SBI and the FBI are investigating how inmates were able to take control of a jail in eastern North Carolina. Investigators say 88 inmates and 3 guards were inside the Bertie Martin Regional Jail when this all started. It happened around 5 a.m. yesterday. Well, one of the guards was able to escape, and the other 2 were taken hostage, but both guards were eventually removed safely. 80 inmates were out of the jail by noon, and the remaining 8 were out just a few hours later. The Bertie County Sheriff says that his office will lead this investigation. DOT construction crews will be out in the extreme heat this week, and they're preparing to stay safe along the way. Let's bring in Ali Kadhabar. She joins us live right now from a construction site on Blue Ridge Road in Raleigh. Ali, we're talking about crews dealing with temperatures above 100 degrees this week.
Yeah, Chris, and depending on what time you travel through this construction zone behind me, you could see crews working or taking breaks. NCDOT says that they're encouraging their crews to work during the coolest parts of the day to avoid those high temperatures. Now, they encourage workers to take frequent breaks in their cars with AC or in the shade. Crews will be wearing cooling bandanas constantly to keep their body temperatures down. NCDOT says sites have coolers for waters, shade systems, misting fans, and heat stress response kits on hand. They have a person at each site responsible for taking care of crews' needs. NCDOT says they shift schedules to the safest times of the day.
We are going to move work earlier into the day so that they get the majority of their work done before the high heat of the day.
Now, if you have to work outside at all during the day, make sure you take frequent breaks in the shade or AC. Drink plenty of fluids, including electrolytes, and you're going to want to take time to rest and recover. Reporting live in Raleigh, Ali Kadhabar, WRAL News.
And the thing is, folks, it's dry and it's hot, but North Carolina isn't likely to see a new burn ban, at least not yet. Fire investigators say while there is still a drought going on, conditions are very different from the spring. For one, humidity is much higher, and for another, trees and bushes are covered with green leaves, which don't easily burn.
We're still dry, fire danger is still high, but we haven't reached that hazardous category yet.
Fire officials are still paying close attention to conditions. They say they are prepared to issue a bird ban if those conditions worsen, which of course would affect fireworks shows. North Carolina lawmakers are reviewing drafts of state budgets as they prepare to vote on the spending plan this week. Most state employees would receive a 3% raise under this plan, along with one-time bonuses scaled by salary. Teachers also are set for raises. Early career educators would get bigger increases, and public safety workers would see some of the biggest gains in this proposal. For more on the budget discussions and what's in and out of the bill, you can head to the NC Capitol section of WRAL.com. Well, the search for survivors after those devastating earthquakes in Venezuela has entered a critical phase. More than 1,700 people have died since those two quakes hit almost a week ago. Rescue teams have been digging through rubble. Search efforts have been happening right now as some U.S. families are pleading for information on relatives who had been deported. Many of them were staying in a hotel that collapsed after the earthquakes. North Carolina's based Samaritan's Purse is just about finished with their emergency field operations in Venezuela. Samaritan's Purse just completed their second airlift to the country. It's brought more than 196,000 pounds of critical supplies there. A canine from the NC Troopers Association Canine Search and Recovery Team is actually on the ground in Venezuela. Joey and his handler, Athena, are working alongside Nash County Deputy Jack Thorpe and canine teams from Canada. You can see Joey searching the rubble in these photos shared by the Sheriff's Office. More rulings from the Supreme Court are expected today, including one on transgender sports bans. The court will rule on laws in Idaho and West Virginia that prohibit transgender girls from competing on girls' sports teams. The justices heard arguments in the two cases in January, and they signaled they would likely allow the state laws to stand. And the court will also hand down rulings on birthright citizenship. The case came up after President Donald Trump's executive order to limit birthright citizenship. And they will also decide on a case involving campaign finance limits. Wake County prosecutors have added a new charge against a man accused of abusing his 2-year-old. Kieran Pasanuri is now charged with attempted murder. Garner police first arrested him last week for child abuse after the toddler was treated for severe injuries, including a fractured spine. Pasanuri is being held without bond in that case. The St. Augustine's University community is mourning after former President Emeritus Brazell Robinson died yesterday. He was 105 years old, and he served the school for nearly 3 decades. Brazell's life and legacy will be honored with 2 services. A memorial service will be held July 10th at the University Chapel, and a celebration of life and funeral will happen Saturday, July 11th at St. Ambrose Episcopal Church. Today, Lumbee Tribal Chairman John Lowry will give his statement of the tribe address, and he plans to share information about the tribal budget, federal recognition, and other topics. The address happened just 1 week after plans for a casino near I-95 took a hit. Tribal members voted against the plan over concerns about gaming decisions and how they would be handled. Lowry's address is scheduled for 6 o'clock tonight. Your time on the clock this Tuesday morning is 4:38. Man on trial. The person facing charges after selling a man drugs that led to his death. Why one retired Superior Court judge says cases like this are kind of hard to prosecute. Plus, major travel wave. How TSA is preparing for the big travel week ahead of July 4th weekend.
As we get ready for that holiday weekend, high heat takes over the eastern 2/3 of the country. Heat advisories, extreme heat warnings all the way from New Orleans to the upper peninsula of Michigan. I'll show you which days we could see some of those same alerts issued coming up. 442, an update on the tropics. We've been getting asked questions about this little yellow blob. It is not a big deal. It is not going to get in the way of any beach plans that you might have. It is just a very low 10% chance of tropical development. One thing that we might see from it is some slightly increased surf and rip currents along the East Coast, but in terms of any kind of rain or anything, no, we're not looking at much of anything from that as it stays offshore. And if anything, it moves from north to south. The same area of high pressure that causes our high heat is what's going to keep that storm system away. So again, no worries if you plan on heading out to the beaches ahead of the 4th of July weekend. And if you're doing that as soon as today, just keep in mind the rip current risk. It is moderate along portions of the coast. It's low along other portions. So while that's low, temperatures running very high. How many straight days we could see of triple-digit heat, and when the last time was that we saw that? Coming up in about 5 minutes.
A Johnson County man accused of selling drugs that killed a man in 2023 is now on trial in Orange County. Jeremiah Hargrove was arrested after the victim died from a fentanyl overdose. That was Dolius Mamo. And Hargrove is accused of selling him the drugs. The General Assembly enacted the death by distribution law in 2019. It makes selling a controlled substance that caused someone's death a felony. Retired Superior Court Judge Carl Fox explains why these cases are so difficult to prosecute.
You have a little bit of difficulty because the main person you need is deceased. So you only have that person, the person who made the sale. So unless you have someone who was around, who was a witness to the sale, but they are, by their very nature, difficult cases.
Now, this is just the 7th case in Orange County. Hargrove faces up to 6 years in prison if convicted. And DHHS reports a 23% decrease in drug overdoses so far this year. The agency also reports a drop in fentanyl-related deaths and mirrors a national trend, it turns out. That's where we have seen overdoses drop 3 straight years. 2 former NBA players are the latest to be charged in a gambling investigation, and one of them is a former UNC player. Ed Davis played for UNC from 2008 to 2010, winning a national championship with them in 2009. According to prosecutors, he placed bets on NBA player Malik Beasley back in 2024. Beasley is accused of adjusting his performance based on those bets. In total, 6 people are facing charges in this investigation. Meanwhile, Fayetteville and Cumberland County are getting more time to figure out next steps for emergency communications there. They're under pressure from the state to combine their 911 communication services. The county says state lawmakers are giving local leaders another week and a half to work out a plan in that case. Well, there's a landmark bill that aims to protect children online that is one step closer to becoming a reality. The U.S. House passed the Kids Internet and Digital Safety Act, also known as the KIDS Act, with bipartisan support. The bill would require online platforms to create safeguards for minors, and it also limits access to sexual material, gives parents controls over social media and video game platforms, and requires AI chatbots to tell minors that it is not human. The bill now heads to the Senate, where lawmakers have already passed a similar version. All right, folks, we are just days away from all of the big America 250 celebrations here and at our nation's capital. Local and federal officials are putting the finishing touches on preparations happening in D.C. Yesterday, teams were out at the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool setting up for the fireworks show. The Secret Service says the National Mall is preparing for up to 150,000 people this weekend. And if you're headed to D.C. or anywhere this holiday weekend, it is expected to be a busy week on the roads and in the skies. We're talking about the TSA expecting to screen 133,000 passengers at RDU between July 2nd and the 6th. The busiest travel days are expected to be this Thursday and next Sunday and Monday. TSA is preparing by increasing staff and reminding people to get to the airport earlier than usual to ease the stress on themselves.
Our peak travel times are early in the morning, 5 a.m. to 7 a.m., and in the afternoon from 3 to 5 p.m. We are staffed to manage our wait time standards. That's 10 minutes or less for TSA pre-check, 30 minutes or less for standard screening.
Now, as part of the preparations, the TSA is increasing staff and having K-9s ready to patrol in order to look for explosives. We are keeping an eye on gas prices as well if you're driving for the July 4th holiday. According to AAA, the average for a gallon of regular in Raleigh around $3.51. In Wilmington, $3.47, and in Asheville, $3.62. But wherever you're driving, you're definitely going to have the AC on because it is going to be a hot one today, tomorrow, and the rest of the week. Don't believe me? Well, talk to meteorologist Chris Michaels. He has been tracking that, plus the heat index values that you could expect this week.
Yeah, you know, those are going to be running very high, especially as we get toward Thursday and into the holiday weekend. So far this morning, it is warm, it is humid, it is exactly as you would expect as we're wrapping up the month of June. Fayetteville, Clinton, 71 degrees. Durham and Raleigh just above that. Goldsboro and Roxborough, you're at 68 degrees. And your morning commute, no major issues. I'm not seeing a whole lot of dense fog out there, just a clear sky. And temperatures for the next 2 hours, right at about 70 degrees. So overall, not bad, just a little on the humid side. Now, as we head into the afternoon, it's hot, but you can handle this, right? We've hit 91, 92, 93 several times already this year, and that's about where we're going to be heading into the afternoon, with Sanford and Fayetteville briefly touching about 94 degrees, Roanoke Rapids in the upper 80s. And the one thing about today is that you'll notice the dew point, or the measure of mugginess, dropping from morning to afternoon, especially in places west of I-95. In the Triangle, it could drop into the 50s, so it'll be hot, but it won't be terribly humid. That starts to change heading into Thursday. So in the orange, that's your high temperature. In the red, that's what the heat index could get to. So you're looking at the potential, at least, for temperatures near or above 100 degrees in Raleigh for 5 straight days. I will say the heat index may not get quite that high. Sometimes the air can mix down to the surface and break up the humidity a little bit, but that's not to underscore the fact that this is some really serious heat. Now, the last time we had 5 straight days of 100-degree heat, that was back on the 4th of July through July the 8th of 2012. So we do hit 100 degrees sometimes, but as far as a 5-day stretch, it doesn't happen very often. So heat advisories, extreme heat warnings, they may get issued starting Thursday, just depending on how high that heat index gets. But regardless of that, just make sure you're staying hydrated. Common sense, right? Make sure your AC's in good working condition, taking breaks, checking on the elderly and pets. All the things that we tell you to do on the hottest days of the year, that's what we're going to have to start doing tomorrow. Temperatures mid to upper 90s. Again, high temperatures, at least in the Triangle, near or above triple digits for 4 to 5 straight days, and overnight lows only in the 70s. Chris?
Only in the 70s. Goodness, the only really hits. All right, thanks, Chris. Holiday Film Lookout. The studio's giving us an inside look at just some of the films heading to the big screen later this year. Plus, Walking Across America, the man raising awareness for mental health state by state, where you can catch him on foot right here at home. Do you know for the longest time we did not have this camera angle set up to this beautiful skyline? Well, I'm loving that we have moved it. You can see the shimmer wall there. You're waking up to a warm and humid morning here on WRAL News. Well, music stars gathered in New York to honor industry mogul Clive Davis. Davis died last week at the age of 94, and he was the founder of Arista Records and a former head of Columbia Records. Music legends that he signed include Whitney Houston, The Grateful Dead, and Barry Manilow. Looks like summer movie season is in full swing, and studios are giving us our first look at the films due out at Thanksgiving and Christmas. David Daniel has previews of 3 winter movies in today's Hollywood Minute.
Don't tell Mom.
Red finds fatherhood is his toughest challenge yet in the Angry Birds movie 3. The animated threequel flies into theaters December 23rd.
Getting a business off the ground takes more than a good product.
Milton, you keep chasing perfection when maybe you should be chasing magic. This badge is
almost perfect.
Finn Wittrock and Alexandra Daddario star in Hershey, about the couple whose chocolate empire changed the world. The drama is due in theaters November 25th.
Thy soul is cursed. Thy kin are cursed.
Nosferatu director Robert Eggers returns with Werewolf, starring Aaron Taylor Johnson in a supernatural story set in medieval Britain. The film opens December 25th under a nearly full moon. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
Ooh, looks spooky. All right, the National Air and Space Museum is opening 5 new galleries to mark its 50th anniversary. Starting tomorrow, a series of artifacts related to aviation and space research will be on display. This includes items related to the Hubble Space Telescope, the Skylab space station, and World War II fighter planes. Well, tomorrow you'll need to be on the lookout for golf carts crossing Wendell Falls Parkway, just so you know. There's a private group that has organized a golf cart parade between 6 and 8 p.m. The town is warning drivers that carts may be crossing the road near Daniel Ridge Road during that time, so keep that in mind. And you'll notice more law enforcement on the roads this week as well. Operation Firecracker is an annual effort to reduce drunk driving during the week of July 4th. In our state, That week is one of the deadliest weeks for travel, and the operation ends July 5th. Well, there's a man from Florida who is walking across the country to promote mental health awareness, and he's passing through North Carolina. Kendall Edwards is in New Bern, looks like, for his trek across America. He said the idea took shape while he was serving his last prison sentence and began on January 1st of 2022, less than 2 months after he was released.
I have overdosed. I've been in county jail 11 times, in prison twice. Now I'm over 7 years drug-free, over 10,700 miles walked to tell people that they matter and to spread light, love, kindness, and positivity everywhere I go.
And the journey is a fundraiser for the nonprofit group Never Alone Recovery, which supports people with addiction and mental health challenges. It's a worthy cause. Working in hot weather, the construction team's keeping a close eye on the rising temperatures and how they plan to stay cool on the job this week. Plus, jail takeover investigation. The law enforcement agency working to learn how nearly 90 inmates took over the Bertie Martin County Jail.